when
I'd be glad to accommodate whatever you need to have done. Larry?
Let the cameras move.
Is that okay?
In the sort of years of the women's movement, when this rage began to explode and the down with men thing, you know, and I would sometimes say to my sisters, you know, you cannot see this thing with what it really is in terms of one sex alone. And it is not a war that we're ever going to win in the bedroom. That is somehow or other have to see this thing in society and take care first of our position in society, and then the sexual thing will take care of itself. And I think that this is true. And I think, I agree with everything that Herb says, but I think that he is making the mistake a little bit, and that's why his picture is so hopeless, of not really understanding that what is happening in terms of a process in society that probably won't be turned back, but that is real. It's real, you know, and it's not going to be solved in the bedroom. I used to, you know, one of the first things that I began to trust my personal truth and decide that there was a lot of nonsense being written about women and men was the concept of penis envy. And I do not think I am denying or repressing in saying, who would ever want one? You know, I mean, like, God, I listen to these things, you know, and I think, thank heaven at least that I don't have that, you know, like, you know, to worry about. But it was obvious, you know, that the reason that the women envied that thing was that that thing was the symbol of all the other things that men had that she really had reason to envy. Let us remember that there was a reality to what happened and had to happen, and, you know, as far as women are concerned. For one thing, there was let's not forget economics. You know, so many psychologists, you know, talk as if, you know, everything is up here, or now it's here too, but as if there's no reality of economic life. As long, for instance, as women were completely economically dependent on men, I don't care what garbage rhetoric Sweetie Pie, you know, anybody said. There was a resentment, an edge on her part. There was a necessary dependence. Up until recently, all divorces in this country were sought by men. Women didn't, with very few exceptions, maybe a few rich women, or, you know, when things got absolutely extreme, they didn't have the economic or the psychic independence, you know, to do, so even though the law forced them to go to court. So, but he was the only one that could get out. I mean, all kinds of surveys showed rightly what he says is true. The first requisite of the man was to be a good breadwinner. Survey of Long Island housewives. How do you look at your men? They've looked at the men, first of all, as breadwinners. Second is, I think, fathers. The next is husbands. And finally, they got around to looking at them as themselves. They never probably got around to that, you know. I mean, but this was a necessity. There was only one way for women to move in society. You know, as somebody's wife. It's the only way she got economic support. That's the only way she got any status. The economic necessity, and the other half of that for the man was this incredible burden that from the, you know, every boy was brought up knowing that no matter what, he had to be able to take care of himself economically and the woman that he married and whatever children they brought into the world till death do them part. You know, and to keep his mouth shut if it was hard, and if he didn't win, he wasn't a man. You know, if he didn't beat the rat race, he wasn't a man, even if it was rigged against him. Now, it is healthy, not lethal at all, for that to change. As women move into society because they have to, and take on, even though they're only today, there are a few of these super women, you know, you know, tokens or more than tokens of a little bit in certain positions. And fine, and they should be. And it's good that, a third of the law school and the medical school are now women and not just men. But the fact of the matter is that women today make 58 cents on the dollar, you know, for every dollar that men make. And that the great majority of women, while they are working today outside the home because they must, and it's not bad that they do because it gives them some measure, you know, of independence. They are not completely dependent on the man. Unfortunately, far too many women are completely dependent on themselves, and their children are dependent on them, you know, as heads of single-parent families, you know, that the majority of women that work today are working at service jobs, the kind of traditional female jobs that have always been paid less because they're female. And they are not very great glamorous jobs at all. Now, it was necessary, and you have to get out of it to go get back into it, for the woman to break through the barriers that kept her from moving in society and take on sex discrimination and the whole thing. And it was necessary also for her to begin to define herself and have some self-respect and feel good about herself, not just in relation to man. Excesses happened. You know, you can get so caught up in that, and then you forget that and like a man that I was interviewing, I've been doing a series for Redbook on women and men going into the 80s. So the man says, well, for 10 years, all we've heard about in the women is me, 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 me. You know, what does it mean to be a woman? Self-fulfillment as a woman. They even force the men to talk about the women. We've been left out of the equation. Well, tough shit, you know? I mean, I don't happen to think men are the enemy. Unfortunately, as I have often said, I have loved men too well in my life, you know. But on the other hand, as sociologists said, what men really are objecting to today is, not all of these other things. I mean, they really aren't objecting that women make some money. You know, it's a relief, you know, and it's kind of scintillating to have the woman sometimes order the wine, and some women are taking the check and so on and so forth. But what they're really objecting to is sharing the prime time. Do you know, in other words, you know, that the attention is no longer just on the man. Do you see? That the woman, the dog talks, you see? I mean, you know, so suddenly it's interesting, you know, how it used to be at parties in Minneapolis, as in Peoria, Illinois, where I grew up, or as in New York. Well, the men were over there, they're having their interesting talk, and the women were over here talking about this dull, dreary stuff, you know. He still thinks it's dull and dreary, drudgery, equal drudgery for all, you know, the kids, you know, this and that, the measles, the recipes, and so on and so forth. And a woman would say, well, my best friends are men, you know, any woman that had any spunk, she didn't want to be, you know, over there with the women on all that domestic talk. Now, very interesting, go to a party in Berkeley, go to a party in Cambridge, go to a party in LA, New York. The women are over here, and they got some real interesting stuff to talk about. And the men are over there at the fireplace talking about recipes, you know, and, no. I mean, if you really want to be honest today, women are dynamic, vibrant, they're moving, you know, they may not be earning very much money yet, not many of them, but they suddenly have a sense of themselves, and that they're interesting, and they're vital, and it's a great release from this, you know, this image, this dreary housewife image, you know, it was an insult to every living housewife. It was so dumb. And so it's a relief to have this equality, the sense of, you have it at least, even if you don't, and, you know, this self-respect, and there's a movement, and it's, even if you're only making 58 cents, you know, it's more than you made before, it's pretty good for a woman, and she's moving, and she's this, and she's that, and she's even got all this rhetoric, she's got the women's movement, and this, and the dull gray man complaining, you know, they don't know what to do, you know, this and that. And so the women say, God, they're so dull, you know, or they say, who wants to be like them? You know, I mean, like whatever. And the gray, dull men, and they're dying anyway. And they're, you know, whatever. And they have these heart attacks and so on and so forth. All right, now,